A very good evening to you, our esteemed viewer. I would say Happy New Year. This is our very first show, our maiden show in 2025. Someone was saying they don't know how it has been so fast from 2020 to 2025. But of course, you'd ask yourself, it's as if 2020 was yesterday. However, here we are in 2025, and we want to thank God for the opportunity to see the beauty of this year. And of course, we are optimistic that a lot of things are going to happen. Of course, closer to the end of the year, we shall have nominations, and of course, that will be another very busy season. But here we are. Today is a Monday, and of course, in Family Hour every Monday, we are looking at things pertaining education. Now, towards the end of last year, there was something that came through. Of course, there is a labor union called Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. ULITU, ULITU. There was an issue that came through. Of course, they were supposed to have a general meeting, an annual general meeting for their circle. And of course, part of the things that were supposed to be discussed was the accountability of the money that the president had given them. That's about 6.6 billion. And of course, a section of the members were not in agreement with the accountability so far that was presented, I think, in the committee, in the executive committee. And of course, on that day of the annual general meeting, we saw the general secretary of the circle being arrested by police. And of course, the president was in hiding for some time. But later, when he came, he assured us, the media, that all these were games of people who envy them, because for them their target is to see that they liberate teachers from poverty, and that is their mission, nothing less. Whoever wanted accountability would go and see the union headquarters. But also he talked about a lot of things, and he said all these are aimed at empowering the teachers, so that a teacher is no longer looked at as poor. Now, of course, the question in point is these labor unions. We want to look at these labor unions, especially there are a number of labor unions that bring together teachers. We want to first of all see how teachers benefit out of these labor unions, because we believe that if a teacher's heart is not settled, then their productivity will be low. Now, this in the end affects the quality of education that we get, because if a teacher is stressed, then they cannot deliver quality knowledge to the learner, and in the end the learner will suffer. Now we shall have half-baked learners. So we want to see how teachers really benefit out of these labor unions, because we see the president gave 3 last November. Then there was a time where some other labor unions were also given. So we want to see how teachers benefit, or how these labor unions, so whether in circles or when this money comes, because for us we think when the money comes, the teacher gets the money, or maybe they share the money amongst the members, and then everyone takes their share, maybe like PDM or something, or Emioga money, that when money comes, then everyone has a share on that. But with us is the General Secretary of the Uganda Private Teachers Union. This is one of the teachers' labor unions that received money that the president issued. So someone would say we are seated with a billionaire, a custody of the teachers' funds.
You're really hyping this discussion to a very high level that you may really fail me to say good evening to our viewers.
It is impossible.
I want to say good evening to everybody watching us over there, and Happy New Year. To those who have resumed work, welcome back. The town is already busy. The streets are so stuffed. They are so busy. Guys in boda, in the market industry, downtown and all over, really, you see that we are back to the real work of the year. We want to thank God for life and for peace in our country. We want to thank the leadership because at one time we never thought we would come this far.
Exactly.
Normally, this is going to be a political year. We might have the same slogans, people telling us that whichever way for us, immediately after this, if this does not happen, the other will come. And sometimes they are really prophetic doom. So we are grateful that here we are, peaceful, and with that we can even host this program at this hour with a fair guarantee that each one of us will go back home. That's the Almighty. Juma Mamle again, you made a number of assertions or statements which are true and also those that require a lot of verifications. But first is to confirm that I can best speak for Uganda Private Teachers Union.
Yes.
I'm also aware that as a joint group there has been joint engagements of all unions that bring together teachers, putting forth our voices, including to the high office of the country about the plight of teachers. Then specifically in areas that are particular to a certain sector, like for example our colleagues working with the government, they have also had their own separate platform as a public service unions. But all together we have also been having those joint discussions, joint push and so on. At one time we were together with UNATU, ourselves from private sector and other unions to speak to the first office in the country. And part of it has been on question of welfare of teachers. And indeed, it is on that background that we finally saw that recent grant. It comes on the basis that earlier on around 2017, there was some support that was given to teachers under UNATU. They were promised a tune of 25 billion shillings. Of course, by that time, their pay levels were low. Until maybe up to now, it's still the same case. But the philosophy was that on top of that low pay, if you have your own money basket, you can utilize it for alternative income sources. That is the ideology. So around 2017, they were promised to a tune of 25 billion shillings, and part of that money was given. Until now, there is a balance of about 9 billion shillings. And when we all raised the voices as UNATU and all the other groups that represent teachers, we made mention of the balance of UNATU and also the other categories of teachers who had never gotten any government support, including teachers in private schools, where I can best speak for, our colleagues in science, those in liberal teachers that we have just been talking about. So in the last, in 2022, on the occasion of 2022 celebration of World Teachers Day, the president had our statements, our pleadings, and granted them all. So in the 2024, actually the other one was 2023, now in the 2024 celebrations, grant was offered to 3 groups. The circle teachers under Uganda Private Teachers Union, the circle for teachers under Uganda Science Professional Teachers Union, and the circle for teachers under Uganda Liberal Teachers Union. You would note that all this money is given distinct to the groups, because the assumption is that each one of these groups have their own members. And the issue is, have this serve your people so they can better improve their welfare, they can better improve their lives. Now, soonest after that grant came through, of course, there are always a number of issues, excitement, and sometimes fightings, especially from those who may not have fair will for the recipient. But for our colleagues from Liberal Teachers Union, they had their internal squabbles, internal wrangles. I think those internal wrangles are coming from a result of miscoordination between the individuals within, the individual leaders within Liberal Teachers Union. The president of the union, who is also the chairperson of the circle, seem to be moving at a fairly faster speed than the rest of other union members and maybe other circle members. To the extent that sometimes some actions are done maybe without their knowledge. That statement, they can best come here and state it. But at least that is what we hear from the loose end, because we do not directly participate into their discussions, but that is what we hear as a feedback. One of the main principles of circle operation is that it is a member organization, and whatever is done by the leadership, whatever is done by the managers, is done on behalf of the will of the members. Okay. So if one person seems to be doing something without approval or without involvement, that in itself could be a fault. But in my view, it is really a small fault that can be fixed. The only problem would be where somebody rushes and then he misuses the funds, and by the time the members wake up, maybe a lot of loss has been occasioned. That is where the problem would be. Okay. But if it is an issue of somebody's high-handedness trying to move along and so on and so forth, such a person can be panel beaten. Members can actually decide if they are okay of such conduct, or if they can even choose to discipline, because circles, actually, the rules that determine circles are predetermined by the Ministry of Cooperatives. So for you just fit within, and one of the key standards is membership participation. Maybe we just need to be sure that whoever is raising the voices is actually a member, because in circumstances where you're not a member, even when you might think that you are really deserving, in circle standard, you may not necessarily be part of those who could come to do the discussions on behalf of the circle.
I thought every member of the union is automatically a member of the circle.
Now, a union, a labor union, and a circle by legal establishment are two distinct entities. Okay. But the difference here is that all the three unions in question existed, and in a bid to further the economic interest of their members, they established circles. So circles in a way are subordinate entities of these unions. But in terms of standard operation, circles have their own preset standards, which are not necessarily governed. Union requirements would only come to supplement, otherwise circles have their own standard operations. So it's not automatic that when you're a union member, you are automatically a circle member. The procedures for being a circle member in many occasions, I think, involve registration. You personally do register. It involves, because the circle is an acronym. So you have to have a stake there by, first of all, establishing an account in there. Many times you establish an account by buying a share. When you finish to buy a share, at least you do the saving. So it is when you have the money in that establishment that then it becomes a part of you. You do not claim it when you don't have a stake in there. Okay. And I think that is something that our colleagues out there need to appreciate. And what the unions or what the circles are doing is to say to the teachers, for us particularly as Uganda Private Teachers Union, we are sharing with the teachers out there that we have an opportunity, which opportunity has even been supported by the government. So let us unite together, use the little that we have and put it together, and then we utilize it amongst ourselves so we can better ourselves. If we just pull those little resources from amongst us by the advantage of our numbers, we'll have a very big basket. And such a basket, in the case of any individual need, we can be able to help. Okay. If we choose to do group economic ventures, we still can be able to fund because of the power of unity. But first thing is enroll, bring on board the little that you have. Let's have a big or fat basket and then utilize that resource to really do whatever programs that we
So this means that the money that the president was issued to circles and not the unions.
That money was requested by unions. All the correspondences about that money was with the unions,
not the circles.
But in a philosophy of better management of that money, the unions chose that it is given to a circle because the circle has those predetermined mode of operation. It even helped to remove the other mindset that when money come, we are going to sit at a central place and start dividing amongst ourselves. The intention is to have a revolving fund that by luck can perhaps reach out to as many potential or as many intending persons as possible. Speaking about 6.6 billion shillings, if you chose to say let us do an equal distribution amongst ourselves, we do not make any significant change in anybody's life. But when you utilize it as a revolving fund in such a manner that that teacher who has a need, maybe to acquire a plot, maybe to complete his house, maybe to finish his studies or to do an alternative business, if that person has a chance to come and get that money at fair terms, do it for the purpose that he wants the money for, and then return it, such is a meaningful approach than us convening at State Square and say each one of us
take your envelope.
Impact, it would, and yet the government's intention or the giver's intention is that this should be considered as a seed that, if well nurtured, can really give us a stepping foundation for us to improve ourselves. We're always crying about miserable payments, which is a fact. We are crying about delayed salaries, which are true for us in private schools. But the issue is, if you're paid that less that you are paid, meanwhile, on top of that small salary, you are also doing maybe farming or maybe another business somewhere. You have funded one of your family members to operate a home-based business. You are probably rearing goat, chicken, or whatever. That in itself can be a basis for you to improve or to add on the little that you are earning through a salary, and therefore have fairly a better life.
Besides now this empowerment, financial empowerment, is there any other way trade unions, now like Uganda Private Teachers Union, support the teachers maybe professionally?
Oh yeah, yes, and allow me before I answer that to first speak about one problem maybe that the public should know. When this money came, because of the misinformation, there has been a lot of misconception. First of all, people thinking that everyone has to have a share, and then there are some smart people or teachers out there who are establishing WhatsApp groups. Others hurriedly registering either associations or whatever, and trying asking teachers to make contributions from that it would be the basis for them to get of the money. We want to inform the public that really there should not be any form of agents in access to this money. The only agent that would be important or required from you is your own school, because in our measure, for you to be called a teacher, you should be employed in a school. If you went and trained as a teacher, but you're working at Family TV as an anchor, you are probably not a teacher in the context that we are considering. For you, you would possibly be considered as a journalist or something. So for us, we wish that people out there are not duped. Just be at your school. If you have a need, reach out to Uganda Private Teachers Union if you belong in the private education sector. If you are in the government and you are among the scientists, reach out to your union, and that union team will come to you and enroll you. There should not be any issues of using people as agents who are coming to ask you of contributions for money for their own sake, and then eventually you throw those blame to us. Asking about what more the union does to its members, apart from these chances of access to credit. Fundamentally, union is for socio-economic well-being. So we do what is called collective bargaining and representation. When we reach out to a school and speak to the staff there, and they get interested and enroll into the membership of a union, the union then takes it up to start engaging the management about the welfare of its staff, including discussing the terms and conditions of work. as guided by the laws, as guided by principles of fairness. We have seen on several occasions many schools around us that are having quite a large population of children who are also paying fairly high fees, and the public knows. But when you look at what is paid to a teacher, it's really very incomparable to the revenues. So in such a circumstance, when a union has evidence of some of these basic computations, we go in to start engaging. And the thing is, one, the principle is to engage with a mutual kind of approach. But we also bring out the other philosophy that you see when a teacher is motivated, just like you said, and he works with his all, then the school is bound to even make much more profits out of that person. Here in our country, we have taken the measure of a better school in terms of better performances. But those performances come from the efforts of a teacher. So if you motivate this person to give in his best, and so he started doing a lot of research, he started doing a lot of extraordinary support to his children, and finally make them pass with flying colors, you do not need to go do advertisement. The only advertisement you will need is to come to Family TV and tell them that of the 60 candidates we had, all of them had the first grade. That in itself is a good advertisement. The next day you will have much more children. You could even have a basis to increase the fees, and so the school will benefit. So the thing has been, speak to the administration to understand that when there is fairness on all sides, there is better gain. Then the other thing, apart from the negotiations, the union also run programs including education. We do program of education that are particularly professional in our lines. For example, we conduct subject-based proficiency trainings. For our colleagues in science, we get some seminars that are really helpful in enhancing their skills in handling science subjects and across all sectors. So that happens as part of the service of the union. But also education beyond the scope of the classroom subjects. It could be in terms of customer care, such that you ask that person who really has a value addition on top of this real physical thing that you're offering in classroom. You see, even when you're a good teacher of English or a good teacher of mathematics, but your conduct is very unpalatable outside the class or even within class, your conduct towards the children, then that in itself can be a liability that can even cause maybe a failure amongst your children and even failure at school levels. So we even do such trainings. We have been conducting financial literacy education supported by trainers of financial literacy packages of ILO, financial literacy packages of Bank of Uganda and others. And also other trainings that relate to life. Well-being, issues of HIV, AIDS, issues of occupational health and safety, issues of environment, and so many other things. So basically is that the union is not limited only to issues of salaries. On top of these negotiations, on top of the representations, we are also looking at the contemporary issues that relate to our lives. One, as individual teachers, but also as education sector. Because, for example, right now, there has been a very high discussion on the issues of climate change. That is a factor that is so serious. In some countries, we have seen situations where schools have been closed because of this harsh climatic environment. Either the sunshine is really very terrible, that children cannot brave it to move to school and back. And so in interest of health, in interest of life, government put a ban. That has not come into Uganda, but it has happened in other places. It can come here. We have seen seasons where temperatures really go so high. So if such is not tamed early enough, it can escalate into something that can be life-threatening. And yet, we believe that when we all appreciate that there is a role we can do, we can play, there is much that we can change. First of all, as schools, we are a hub of people who bring younger men and women together for quite a long time. If you impart a sense of responsibility, if you impart a sense of will to serve, to do a community service to these children, they really can do much. Just imagine if we taught these children and each one of them is going back to his or her home and just planting maybe 2 or 3 trees. What would that mean in a very short period of time? So this is a part of what we have been putting forward, and we think any other person out there who really think that we can work closely into intensifying this can come on board, and we say I will really intensify that.
Okay. There is an issue, and now this pertains the quality of education. Probably this is something, you know, I have a friend here who calls it abundant cheap labor, where very many school proprietors do not want to risk to hire professional teachers, so they use senior 6 vacists or someone who is a university student in a different discipline, but because they are looking for survival, so they hire them because they know they'll not put them on pressure, they're desperate. So that is a very big concern. Yet there are professional teachers who don't have jobs,
who are actually yearning for a job.
Yes. Is there any initiative that you have, especially engaging the proprietors of these schools to show them the risk they are taking in hiring people that are not professional in their schools?
You see, over time and again, the government has issued directives, guidelines, and instructions on how schools should be managed. As one of the very basic is that the function of conducting teaching should be held by somebody who is professionally trained to do that role. At least that requirement is already in the books and the Ministry of Education as a guideline. To further that, government has put forth offices to do inspection, to do supervision, to ensure that whatever is put forth as a guideline is really put into effect. So we see each district having a district education officer with several school inspectors and other officers. I think even municipalities have the same structures. But the problem we have is the high sense of craftiness in our country, really. Many of these people instead establish friendships such that he knows when he goes to visit a certain school, really is going away with an envelope, other than doing the right thing. And now the same has been exacerbated by the government itself, because the government has a seal of a number of teachers that are expected at a particular school. But it is very difficult, I don't know whether it ever exists, for you to ever visit a school and it has full staffing. They always leave gaps. And now when they leave gaps, it goes as a duty, as an obligation of the school manager, who is the headmaster, to see how to fill up these gaps. In government schools, school head teachers are sourcing for people who could do the function of professional teachers. You see, getting either people, sometimes they have gotten teachers who are trained. But you see, the issue is the government is not taking up the responsibility to pay for them. So this person is getting such a person who can do the role and bridge the gap. Now, with that example from government schools, many private schools have taken advantage. Because even by authority, I mean, people would lack a moral authority. If in your own school, you're getting people who are actually not accredited. So why would you then come and imagine that it is enforceable to another person who is holding his own personal capital? But overall, is that such is a danger. And in circumstances where it can be avoided, we have been advising that it should be avoided. We are going forward into, like, for example, this national teacher bill that perhaps will come to pass as a national teacher act. These are some of the issues we have been speaking about. We are lacking teachers in our schools. Maybe they are there who are trained, but I mean, many of those who are trained are either opting not to go into teaching. Then the others, perhaps the owners of schools, think that they cannot afford them, so they choose to go for other law people who would go for low pay and so on and so forth. But again, we are bringing in kind of considerations that are going to make it much more expensive to afford a teacher.
Let's take a short commercial break. When we come back, we are going to start from that very point, because we do not want to rush into it, especially when you say that it is going to make it even more expensive to afford a teacher. We are coming back, and probably you would want to know why it will be more expensive to afford a teacher.
This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission.
When you are in the Lord, when you are sealed in the Lord, the devil looks at you and you are glittering. The devil locates a crown. For any person that the devil locates with a crown, the devil will never eat them, because they belong to the Most High.
Friends, don't you give up in any form of hardship. Don't you give up, for Jesus encourages us and says, even at the point of losing your life, for the sake of Christ and the gospel, it is okay.
My dear brothers and sisters, let us remember that God is still reigning on his throne in heaven above. And let us trust in him. Let us rely on him. Let us pray each and every time. Let us not give up on showing ourselves out into the world that the Lord Jesus Christ is still king and he still reigns.
You and I are here to reign on the earth, not to complain, not to grumble, not to play victim, not to quarrel, but to reign on the earth.
I pray, Father, that you will release the fourth man to destroy every fire, to protect your people who are in every furnace, and set them free in the name of Jesus.
Welcome back from that commercial break. Of course, we want to thank you for coming back with us. This is Family Hour, empowering families one episode at a time. Today, we are looking at issues to do with education. I mean, every parent would wish to have their child study. And every parent would wish to have their child attain quality education. But sometimes the circumstances, I know some of us were taught by people who are not teachers. I'm one of them. I know people who were not teachers, but they taught us and we passed because they had the passion, or maybe they had the opportunity because they are related to the director or something like that. But I mean, in the place where this person is, there is a professional teacher who is unemployed. But they have not been given a platform.
Sometime during our season, there were those people that we used to call licensed teachers. Somebody who had the knowledge, who had the skills, but was not a professionally trained. He would be given a license to teach. But that has since been phased out, and so we do not have any licensed teachers as we speak.
Why did it phase out?
I think because they noted that there were enough trained teachers around, including those who are looking for jobs but do not have them. So somehow there was no need to bring on board people who were not tested, who were not professional, when actually there are those who are professional and are in waiting of being absorbed.
But before the break, you said that the things that you look at and you say that it might be difficult to hire a teacher, especially if there is no amendments, if there are no amendments made in the bill as it is.
Yes.
Yeah, in this bill as it is. What makes you think that it will be expensive to hire a teacher?
Just about this week, the organization that has been established to oversee academic development of teachers, UNITI, Uganda National Teacher Uganda National Teacher Institute, something like that, brought
Institute
out,
of Teacher Education, actually,
Institute
I think
of Teacher
that is
Education, Uganda National Institute of Teacher Education brought out a schedule for teachers holding holding certificates and those holding diplomas on how they are going to acquire the degrees. When you look at that schedule, there is no course that costs less than $1 million shillings by unity per semester. For a course of somebody who seek to have a degree in early childhood development, which is called nursery education, UNITE says that person would be paying about 1.4 million shillings a term, a semester. That means that money is paid twice in a year. So that is about 3 million shillings in a year.
Actually, I was looking for that document. Bachelor of Education, Secondary Science, Physics, Math, PE.
Look
biology.
at that one for early childhood development. You would just realize.
Bachelor of Education, Pre-Primary, In-Service and Pre-Service, 3 years, 1,400,000.
This is what I'm speaking about. So somebody who is that nursery teacher teaching, handling baby class in Soroti, would need to have 3 million shillings to go under UNITE and do a degree. 1 million shillings, 3 million shillings times 3 years. That is only for the tuition. There is also a note for other administrative fees. Now you would see that many of those people, I am speaking about
functional fees paid in the first semester, 1,020,000 shillings. So
I do not know as to whether you may speak to your viewers there and confirm that teacher in Soroti earning 100,000, 150,000 shillings as a monthly salary can really afford to go for that. Clearly, it means that a large number of people will miss out to go for these advancements.
True.
And so the few who will afford now will have invested in their education that much as you're reading it there. So if that person has put in himself all that much, what is the possibility that when he comes back, you will continue thinking that you can pay him at 150 like the case is? And so it would mean that if he's going to ask or expect more, you will not afford such a person. So in the end, either people will resort to lawlessness of engaging people who are actually not professional, or will even see schools closing up. We are going to see education being very unaffordable because of how high it's going to be. It is not bad for teachers to advance. We all want this. But in our own view, we need to have a strategy on how to motivate advancement. For example, if we have seen government making a direct commitment that they are going to reward in terms of salaries in respect to how qualified somebody is, then teachers would run for automatic advancement without any pressure. Just state that anybody working on government payroll in a private school, if you're receiving about 450,000 shillings as salary, when you get a degree automatically, when you get a diploma automatically, your salary would be increased maybe to 900. When you get a degree, your salary would automatically be increased to another level. I want to tell you that these people will rush to go to school by themselves.
Yeah.
But in the circumstance where we are having degree holders in government schools paid at a level of diplomas, where we are having diploma holders paid at level of certificate, there is no motivation. Even when somebody has acquired all that after that high input, there is no direct gain. Yeah. So such is really going to kill the whole thing, and it is part of the plea that we are making, especially the Minister of Education, that it would be reconsidered. We attach the call for academic progression with remuneration, such that how high you are qualified relate to how much you earn. That shall sort out the problem without really bothering people. And the same president can even go into private schools whereby a highly qualified teacher is paid relatively higher than the one who is actually below him or her.
There were news, I don't know how true this story was. Okay, there were two stories. I don't know how true they were, but one was of a teacher who committed suicide during that festive season, and the reason was because the school had not paid him, I think, for some time. And then the other one was of another teacher who was caught stealing some hens in some monastery, something like that. Yeah, to try to survive. I mean, comparing these stories, there are very many other teachers that are depressed or stressed, or they're really going through a lot of issues. They have a lot of mental illnesses, and yet they are supposed to meet these learners with a sober mind. Are there any engagements that you have with them, especially advocating for the need for their rehabilitation?
At the time when COVID struck, and immediately after COVID closures and so on and so forth, we had a collaboration with one counseling group that really wanted to give as much support of emotional support to teachers, especially in private schools. But since then, we have not had continued direct intervention in that line. I cannot really lie about, but indeed, as a union, we need to carry that, to revive that. We need to revive that, to start speaking to ourselves about our emotional well-being, because of the poor pay, because of the levels of indebtedness, how people are really indebted, because of the delayed kind of salaries,
the teacher's bill, which is also causing people to panic
at work. You put all your hope in a school, and the next month, as term begins, you're told you don't have job here. All those are capable of causing a lot of devastating effects arising from the frustrations. So I think as a union, we really can revive this. But at the moment, we have not been doing it. We would be so glad, though, to engage and collaborate with any professional counseling providing service providers, such that when we have meetings, especially big meetings for our teachers, then we could also have a professional session from one of those people to speak to us about these situations and how well we can manage in case somebody is trapped into such. Yes, but it's a wake-up call, really, that I pick from here as one of the programs that we can continue carrying on as a recurring program. Because we only attempted to do it at the time of immediately after COVID. But I think it is something that is real. I have not heard about the deaths and the stealings, but I cannot refute. I mean, it is possible, because until now, we have cases of people who are chasing teachers from jobs without any notice. We have cases of teachers who are paid 100,000 shillings as a monthly salary, and even then it is defaulted. So you look at such a person who has not been paid for a term and now is warming for Christmas, maybe on a promise of 1 month's pay, but still it is also not paid. Really, that is a high level of frustration that can lead somebody to do anything inhuman.
Yeah.
So we take it up very seriously. And we want to appeal to the public, especially those people who are professional in counseling, that we may catch up as Uganda Private Teachers Union and then your organizations, and we see how we help the communities. After all, a better teacher translates into a better learner. And that better learner is the future of our Uganda.
Yeah. So while you speak about this, someone might think that everything is in a silver plate. When you presented your plea to the president and then he hid to it, everything was. But are there any challenges that you face as unions, especially in the advocating of teachers' rights, but also in trying to advocate for quality education?
First, in terms of the grant that came from the president, I think it was not about it being a silver plate. It was about us speaking the real situation that is viewed by everybody. Part of the issues of our argument to the HE was the discriminative salaries, and he's aware, he's even the one who started it. He's even the one who says that he's going to rationalize, but for now we cannot afford. So the explanation, our take was, in the circumstances that you are looking at rationalizing, but you have not done it yet, kindly help those who are still underpaid to have an alternative source. We also told him about the plight of teachers in private schools, all these things you have been talking about, and even the promise he gave in the time of COVID that never came to be fulfilled. So he really appreciated these things. Actually, in his own language, when we were making those assertions, he said, "Banange kankole kubasomesa balemeku." There is a word he used, as if their ghosts should not haunt him. You see that kind of thing. Let him serve teachers such that they do not haunt his spirit. That was the language. So the whole thing was that we only made a factual presentation of ourselves. And we accompanied it with a humble pleading. From me as a lesson and as a takeaway, I think the president, when you get an opportunity to engage with him, is really a kind-hearted person. Is such a person who would want to see his people get better. But sometimes we do not get approached to engage him, or maybe we are engaging him on another note of confrontation. And of course, as a human being, everybody really wants respect, he wants his powers to be felt. He has even told us that he earns he earns very little salary, but you there his 3.6. They are his powers. I think, therefore, his pride and his powers is actually vested into his powers. So I think when you intend to engage with him, is that you must have regard for his powers and therefore engage him as such. Yes.
Okay. So we've also seen. Last time, it was around last year, you see, there's something you talked about that the teachers that are about to be laid off. Results are soon coming out. The UCE, the PLE, and the USCE. But last year we saw teachers being beaten by directors because they have asked for their salary. And then the other time we saw teachers striking over low pay, and then the director says, "I'll fire you and hire people of my race, and I'll pay them this particular amount of money." I mean, this
was in Kororo.
These were disturbing statements that someone is paid 200,000 shillings, and then when they request for an increase, I'm bringing someone of my race who will give 3 million. And you're like, okay, this is unfair. But anyway, are there initiatives that you've put in place to support such teachers, especially those that are being beaten when they ask for? We've also had stories of teachers being beaten by directors in staff rooms simply because they're trying to discipline a student, and then the director comes in to beat the teacher up. I mean, such things. Are there any initiatives that you've put in place to support such teachers?
Part of the general initiative that we have put is these media campaigns and sensitization.
Okay.
We put it to them to appreciate and get to know that there is a platform, you have a right, and when that right is trampled upon, you have a remedy. But you see, justice will always come to you for as long as you're vigilant. When you're humiliated and you do not have courtesy to register the humiliation that has been meted onto you, you may not be helped. When your rights have been violated but you do not want to speak up, or you don't want to register the violation of your rights, then it could be a little hard for you to be helped. So for us, we have used the spaces like at this moment, and indeed we are very grateful to Family TV for always giving us opportunity to speak to those people that, I mean, we have a platform, Uganda Private Teachers Union. The best is be part of that platform. As its core mandate, when you are a member and you have such an issue, yours is merely to give details. The union will pursue it to the end. But now, if you do not want to be a part of the union, and such a case happens to you, and you do not even want to bring it to the public realm, then it becomes very hard for anybody to help. We learned about that occasion that happened in this Kampala-based school, where teachers were on strike because of preferential payments and so on and so forth. The next day, I think some of them were fired. A few others were asked and were invited to some authority and compromised. Now, when we take that for a solution, we are breeding a problem that the next day, what has befallen the other person who you think was a fool and was fired can still catch up with you. The next day it can catch up with you. The best thing is to seek an everlasting solution. And that solution is to be part of a platform that first of all is going to give you knowledge about your rights at work. Then secondly is going to guarantee that you are protected. Prevention is better than cure. As we speak today, this country has structures that can help in terms of providing remedy to such cases. Almost every district is obliged to have a district labor officer. So when you have such a problem and you just register it to a district labor officer, it can be handled at that level. Those people, the district labor officers, in the laws of Uganda, are considered as courts of first instance. They are like magistrate courts. But we also have the office of commissioner here now, which is centrally located here in Kampala. Simba Manyo. Yes, is that Simba Manyo House? Minister of Labour, Gender.
Yes, Simba Manyo. Yes. It's actually a gender house now.
Gender house. So you can be helped at that level. We even have a court which is particular for issues of workers. So should you fail to have justice at all these levels, industrial court is here. It is based in Nakawa. Just go there, you will be supported, you log in your case. I want to say that if you do not take a personal step to seek justice in those forums, you may not be helped. And people will continue crying and lamenting and making statements. You see, government has not helped us. You see, Mama Fina Tuyambe and other options. But the ideal is the solution is in your hands. You better take a step. Now, the very convenient and easiest way, at your comfort in your classroom, just invite on Uganda Private Teachers Union. First of all, a team of the union officials will come to you wherever you are in Uganda. They will ask you to be part of them, to enroll as a member. And when you are enrolled as a member and you get such a problem, yours is immediately to report with facts. I am so and so, based at this school, my head teacher or my this and that has done this and this and this against me. I feel that my rights have been infringed upon and I want action. That is how far it goes. That is how far it would require you. The rest of other things, the union will take it up until it is concrete to its logical end.
Wow.
So I think to our colleagues out there, really, let's embrace unionization. For Uganda Private Teachers Union, in terms of unionization, you can use 0779 55 6781 for more details. The other office line is off my head. I would be able to share, I think, at a later moment. I can share it. Then people can use it. Call through that number, give your details, and there would be for teachers in private schools. Actually, ours is for teachers and support staff, for workers in private schools.
Okay. Because I was about to ask, what about someone who is in a private school but they're non-teachers?
The catch name is Private Teachers Union, but it embraces all staff in private schools.
Okay. What are your closing remarks as we wind up this discussion?
One is that it is not all well. It is not all well with the teachers in private schools. But the beauty is that there is something that has happened. There is something that we can do. For the cases of abuse of our rights, for the cases of the poor welfare, there is something that we can do. In my own advice, I want to say that one, let us join the union and use that union as a platform to answer to all our problems. As a union, we have used it as a voice to speak about issues that relate to policy in our space. We have put forward a very firm statement on issues of this national teacher policy and several other policies. So let us use the union to bring out those aspirations that you want, those policies that have been put forth by your district, those that are being put forth by the ministry, and you think they are really making it hard for you to serve to your best. Please use the union to speak about them. That is one. Two, let us use the union to better ourselves. At the moment, that little money that we are getting, if we only allow and accept and trust each other and put it together, put a small proportion of it, we are capable of making a very big buffer that we can utilize to actually improve ourselves. Even then, at this moment, we have had goodwill people who are even giving us extra support, like we are speaking about the government grant of 6.6. That in itself can be a life changer for as long as we have the will, for as long as we are working together. So I want to invite teachers out there not to miss on this golden opportunity. Please come on board, utilize your union, utilize your circle to do those basic things that you think can really make changes in your lives. Very lastly is that Uganda Private Teachers Union is always open and welcoming. We are in Ntindo on Chigowa Road. At any time of your convenience, please have a moment through. You can reach out for more directions via me on 779-556781. At that moment, we can be able to talk more, but you still can get more about Uganda Private Teachers Union through our website. Just put in Uganda Private Teachers Union, the other details will come, and you should be able to navigate and see more about us, and then we see how we can catch up. Even that space, that site has details of how you can reach out to us, so then we can get in touch and see how we go forward. Otherwise, I want to thank you so much, my brother, for giving me and for giving us this opportunity. Always, I want to thank the management of Family TV. I want to thank our viewers who are glued on up to this late hour. Thank you all. May God bless all of us. Amen.
Thank you so much as well for watching through. I've worked with Didmas, Jonan, Alan. Yeah. Someone is forcing me to say Jonah Jello. Okay, Jonah Jello Wakabi. And of course, from the entire team, we wish you a blessed night. We meet again tomorrow as we discuss health.